Welcome to Cinemaholics. You're listening to our review of In and of Itself, which is an excerpt from episode 204 of the Cinemaholics podcast, hosted by Will Ashton and myself, John Negroni. To watch and listen to Cinemaholics every week live, follow us on YouTube. The link is in the description of this review. Enjoy the show. Our last film of the week is probably our most unique, I have to say. We talked about kind of a conventional Western that, definitely had a lot going for it. We kind of talked about an Indian-based epic that, it has a lot of themes. It has a lot of ideas in it that we've seen discovered in plenty of other films. But our last film here is Derek DelGaudio's In and of Itself, which is kind of a lot of things. It's kind of like a one-man show. It's also like a magic show. And yet it's neither of those things really. It's something that I certainly was not expecting. I'll put it that way. And there's a lot to get into here. And I'm really glad we picked this because I'm so curious to pick your brain about it, Will. This is a documentary that was kind of put together it's on Off-Broadway, or was on Off-Broadway a few years ago. And they filmed multiple performances. And then the movie itself, which is on Hulu, it shows you like in one straight path the show, but then it like weaves back and forth between different audience members because it's very interactive. It's more interactive than your typical one-man show essentially. But the person behind all of this is Derek DelGaudio, who is a conceptual magician. He's not really doing magic tricks with abstract ideas. He's doing magic tricks with people and kind of himself. He's telling stories. And I don't want to get into very deep territory here, and I don't want us to reveal much of anything in terms of like the actual setups and like what happens in this, because I think to get something out of this, I think it's really helpful to not know anything about it going in too specifically if possible. But I would say that if you're listening and you're already curious, on that note, just watch it and don't listen to us talk about it, because I think, I don't know, Will, if you're even going to like it, but I say this is a must watch, and you should just watch it sight unseen. Will, what about you though? Am I on an island here?
No.
Who am I?
Well, I can't answer that, but I can tell you you're not on an island because, well, for one, when I went into this, I had no idea what it was going to be. I thought it was just a documentary about a magician. So I was like, okay, I was settling in for something a little bit, like, not even like a performance art piece, just like something of just like, yeah, I did all these cool tricks and like you probably just see a few things. I was like, okay, just kind of an easy watch. Nothing that I have to be like super emotionally invested in.
Oh no.
Which I'm not saying that as a Chris. I'm just saying that like when the movie started and it's like, please put away your phone and all this stuff. I was like, okay, it's a little much. It's just about a magician, right? And then and then the show this goes on. Like I said, like it does remind me a little bit of American Utopia in that like it does feel like a sort of interactive, kind of close yet also communal look at this very idiosyncratic performer talking and interacting with the audience through his talents. But yeah, I'm not too far from where you are because I think, like you said, like going into this with even moderate or like modest expectations is the way to go, because I think that's the way you get mostly invested in it, because similar to the audience, like I feel like he's playing so much against expectations or like, unassuming audiences to the point where like he sort of like downplays his talent or like kind of like acts like he's a little bit more like unprofessional than he actually is, to the point where he can, like kind of like, do like these amazing things off the cuff. But like you said, like beyond that, it's not really just like, hey, here's this cool trick. It's like this like social identity performance crisis art piece where it's like,
yeah, it's about the illusion of not just sleight of hand, but like the illusion of people, which is like brilliant. Like that is such a great connection I've never really considered before.
But also like this sort of like memoir in the form of stage art as well, where it's like, he's trying to find himself in the process. And that might also just be an illusion, like we said, as well. But at the same time, like it does, help the audience loosen up and, feel like they are a part of the show in a way that they may not anticipate going in, which is beautiful in its own sort of weird way. But yeah, not what I expected, to say the least. But yeah, I really got a lot out of this. And I can see why it's affecting a lot of people. And in the movie and also watching the movie. So yeah.
Yeah, I got a lot out of it too. I think it kind of like reached into my soul a little bit and made me like confront things I hadn't had to think about in a long time, which was difficult but probably needed. And I think what'll probably work for people, even if you watch it and I could see people kind of being overly skeptical, like you are like with a magic show and really trying to figure everything out that happens, to the detriment of enjoying the show. I think even on that level, man, this guy is just good at telling stories. Like he is a master at just getting you to listen to a story, understand the in and outs, and then connect to it emotionally. Dude should work for Pixar is what I'm saying, because like he has like the succinct storytelling tenacity of like Pete Docter, it seems like to me.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing I want to champion as well is Frank Oz's approach. Like I think
yeah, he worked on the actual stage production too.
He?
I looked up. Yeah,
I didn't know that.
He was part of like putting that together, and he did the film. So that's why I think it's so seamless.
Yeah, I mean, I will say that like something I've talked about before that I think really needs to be pointed out is that directing stage in a cinematic way is super hard. Like it can't be underestimated like how hard it is to make a stage production work on screen. And I do think Frank Oz does it in a pretty seamless fashion where like you feel like you're watching a stage show, but you also feel involved with it, but you're also close to the performer and you get like, a lot of interesting angles and like different perspectives, but it doesn't take you out of the show at the same time. And that's a really hard thing to do. And I think that Frank Oz does it pretty seamlessly here. And I think that's even more impressive for me because I feel like as a director, Frank Oz, I've kind of gone back and forth on a lot of his directorial efforts. Like I like Little Shop of Horrors a lot. Like I think that's a really great musical, but like something like Death at a Funeral, I'm not crazy about, and a few of his other comedies, I'm not super invested in. So I wasn't really sure what to expect from him as a director, but I thought he did a great job filming this and presenting it in a very cinematic and engaging way for sure.
Yeah, again, don't want to talk about specific stuff, but there is a moment in this where he just like gets a hug. And I think, I didn't know anything about this guy going into this documentary, but seeing him and even calling it a documentary feels weird. It's kind of like a non-concert film, yeah. But just seeing him get that hug, I was just so happy for him. Mm-hmm. Like, and I don't know this guy. Like, yeah. As far as I know, everything about him is a lie.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't know him from Adam.
Exactly. Right. But no, it's just there's this like nature to his approach that there were times where like it struck me as like, man, this guy would be a really good cult leader. Like he kind of uses the affect of like a cult leader who is trying to like manipulate and control people's emotions. Not to bring up Pixar again, but like dude could, like if he wanted to, he would probably be able to get people to do anything. And instead he uses his powers for off-Broadway productions, which is far more worthwhile in my opinion.
Yeah, I think we should be grateful for that for sure, for a lot of reasons. But
President DelGaudio.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But I mean, like this is something as well. Like we were mentioning, like if this wasn't a film, like I wouldn't know anything about this. Like I would go my whole life just not knowing what the show is, anything about it. And I'm really glad that this movie exists because, like like we were saying, like if I didn't even ask you about this or I didn't have time to watch it, I probably would have let this gone by too. So I'm really grateful that this exists and that Hulu was able to stream it because
we have to thank Abby because Abby's the one who raised it to our attention. So
yeah, for sure. But I think it works really well in the streaming format as well because like we're saying, like it's presented in a visually interesting way, but it's not something that like demands to be seen on the big screen. Like I think it works really well on TV and it does its job well. And I think this is the type of content I want to see more of from streamers because I think it allows us to see these stage productions that otherwise, I would probably never get to see because I don't live in New York and I don't have access to these type of things. But, they help to bring a communal experience and, I really appreciate that. So I want more stuff like that.
Same here. So I'm pretty high on this. I'm an A-. It's incredibly good. I can see why it's high up for people as well. I know it's got like a pretty high Rotten Tomato score. What about you?
Yeah, I mean it's it's very early in the year, and I don't know where I'm going to be in December, but I would not be surprised if this ends up in my top 10 because I really liked it as well, and it completely caught me off guard.
Yeah,
but I'm really glad we checked this out. So I'm a pretty high A- as well.
It's funny because too we were so close to being like, Will, you should watch Our Friend.
Yeah.
Which I don't think you would have disliked or anything.
Yeah,
but
I probably would have thought it was fine. But I think this is the better one of the two that I had the option of watching for sure. So.
I mean, I say that, but I can say that because I watch both movies.
Right.
But
Sure, fair enough.
Thank you so much for listening to our show. Be sure to subscribe to Cinemaholics on your favorite podcast app of choice. Mine is Overcast. Or find us on YouTube, where you can stream our weekly episodes live for even more banter and weird film takes. See you all next time.